72 is not bad. 72 is not bad. Woo! What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to flynubianqueen.com, flynubianqueen.com. Come on in. Make sure you do the normal things. You already know what's going on. Make sure you subscribe to our platform called flynubianqueen.com. Also, check out our new platform called flynubiankingtv.com. My name is Edward Williams, and I'm your host for the late night HBAM show. This show is for adults only because a certain level of maturity is required to talk about health in such a way because we're not really holding any punches as pertains to improving our health. We're definitely not holding any punches as pertains to the truth about these things we're dealing with in our community, such as the blood pressure, the obesity, the cholesterol, the heart disease. So get ready for it. Tonight we got a pretty good conversation. But like I said, make sure you check out our network for melanated women such as yourself called flynubianqueentv.com, flynubianqueen.com. Also, we have a new platform called flynubiankingstv.com. Take a quick second out right now and text the word Queens to 31996. Text the word Queens to 31996. And if you are interested in business or getting your finances in order, make sure you check out flynubianbusiness.com and flynubianmoney.com. All right, make sure you check those things out. If you're already in the chat, do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. Make sure you share this video out. Okay, so like I said, we all know people in our family, people in our circle, whether it be our neighborhood or our community, that could benefit from this information. So please, let's all do our part and push this information out in the community. We want to make sure that we're not leaving people out there to struggle on their own, dealing with these health issues on their own, when we have information right here that's free, practical, and sustainable. All right. So what's going on? How y'all doing? Yo, YouTube, where y'all at right now? What's going on? So I see we got some people over here on Facebook. Yeah. That book, Salt, Sugar, and Fat, is serious. So somebody's mentioned in the chat about the one. Matter of fact, the book's right here. So I have plenty of books, but this book right here, can you see it? It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat. Subtitles: How the Food Giants Hooked Us. It's written by a journalist called. His name is Michael Moss, and essentially he just goes through and shows you the game of marketing, the game of food, and just how much work really goes into selling you the food that is making you sick. A lot of work go into it. So if you feel like you're struggling with the addiction, if you feel like you're struggling with the food in general, understand that a lot of work went into making sure that you did struggle. A lot of work went into making sure that it was very addictive. Everything from the color of the chips bag, the letters, the brightness of a bag, the air to chip ratio. Y'all know when you open up them bag of chips, the bag look like this big, right? The bag is this big. Can you see that over here? But when you open it, there's like this much chips in there, and everything else is air. Well, apparently there's a reason for that. So yeah. So if you want to get a good read, check out that book. You can even read some articles about that book online. It does a pretty good job. I think the beginning part of the book is pretty interesting. It talks about how right in the beginning of the book, it talks about this meeting that went down in New York between some of the biggest food companies. I think it was like Kellogg's, Nabisco, all these little cute food items we have that we think, are sweet and, nice and loving. Well, these gangsters, these CEOs got together and they were deciding on how to clean their names out of the obesity epidemic that was taking place, because back then they were starting to see the rates of obesity increasing. They were starting to see the rates of diabetes increasing. And while the rates of diabetes and obesity and stroke was increasing, revenue was increasing as well too. And so they came together to essentially, make a pact that whatever we do, we don't rat each other out. All right. They're like, whatever we do, Y'all don't stop pointing fingers at us saying we did it. We're going to deflect. But whatever we do, never admit to anything. Matter of fact, all of us in this circle, make sure we all donate to some kind of campaign dealing with health, or we create campaigns dealing with health. And so they start talking about how they would make like little campaigns for like after school activities, eating health classes, all these things that look very nice, but they were only doing that. This is just like laundering money. Like I said, if you think the dope game only exists on the street level, you're sadly mistaken. So essentially, they were just talking about how to, pretty much hide the bag, secure the bag, and then hide the body without the public knowing. So, pretty good book to check out. Pretty good book to check out. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this conversation, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into this conversation. Like I said, please go ahead, subscribe to the channel, share the video out. This is our community, it's our responsibility. All the issues that we're dealing with as it pertains to the topic that we're talking about tonight, we have everything we need to take care of it and reverse and improve our situation on our own. We should not wait around for any outside intervention, nor do we need any outside intervention. We all we need, and the truth is we all we got. So don't expect outside assistance because it never works out. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So the topic is, are we destined to be sick? Are Black people destined to be sick? And this is a common theme for me. This is a common question that I'm asking. I ask a lot of times. And the reason why I ask the question a lot of times is because I know it to be true. I know that deep down inside, many of us believe that we are destined to be sick, regardless if we say it right off the top. All right. And the way that we can kind of explore that a little bit is, what's a very common saying that we have in our families? When it comes to diabetes, high blood sugar, what's a very common saying that we have? Diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, cholesterol, heart disease. What's a very common saying that we're always saying? Come on, let's go. What is it? What is it? All right. Yeah, I'm moving a little slow on the keyboard tonight. So the common saying that we all heard, I've said it multiple times, you've all most likely said it, and that is, it runs in my family. It runs in my family. High blood pressure, it runs in my family. Diabetes, it runs in my family. Mama got it, daddy got it. I know I'm gonna get it. It runs in my family, right? So can we all attest to that? Am I telling the truth? Is this real? Have we all said this? Have we all said this, right? And this is not, we're not doing no wagging fingers or blaming anything like that. What we're doing is we're dissecting the problem so that we can come up with a solution. And so in order for us to dissect this problem, like, we got to keep it 100. We say it all the time. It runs in our family. It runs in our family. Now, of course, when we say it, we don't mean any harm. We don't really understand the depth of it because it's been said to us so much and it's been passed down so much and we've heard it so much, and we also see it, right? Or we see what we think is the results of it running in our family. We see something. We see people, our family members being sick. We see the family reunion. We see everybody injecting insulin, taking medications, using wheelchair, breathing on an oxygen tank. Such and such has to go down to the dialysis clinic. So we see it and we believe that that is the result of us being Black, essentially. Like, let's keep it 100. Like, we just believe that that's the result of being Black. Like, you're Black in America, you get sick. That's what we do. That's what happens here. Other communities, they pass down businesses, they pass down lands, they pass down money. Black community, we pass down business, we pass down disease. So that's what we're subtly saying on a subconscious level. And so what we need to do is bring that up, dissect it, figure out why we're constantly saying that, why we believe that, and then figure out what we need to do to actually eradicate that. And like John Henry Clark says, throw it in the trash can of history. All right. So that's what this conversation is about. We're going to get right into it. But like I said, before I do that, please go ahead, subscribe to our new platform called FlyNubianKingTV.com. Check out our other platform called FlyNubianQueen.com. Network for melanated women. Also text the word Queens to 31996. Queens to 31996. And if you want to get any of the Fly Nubian Queen gear, make sure you check out Shop F&Q. And if you're in the chat right now, go ahead and hit the like button. All right, hit the like button. Hit the like button. All right, let's go. Let's get into it. All right, so let's set the stage, right? So when I'm talking about these conditions, when we're talking about are we destined to be sick, um, it running in our family, let's go ahead and define what we're talking about. So specifically, I'm talking about preventable diseases. So the name right there already, it already debunks the theory about it running in our veins because it's called preventable conditions. But let me clarify, I'm talking about the high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, obesity, heart disease, stroke. These are the things that I'm referring to. I'm talking about the lifestyle conditions, chronic conditions, and preventable diseases. Now, mind you, you've all heard me say these aren't diseases. Well, the high blood pressure and diabetes and high cholesterol aren't specifically really diseases as pertains to the actual definition. But we're gonna roll with it. Okay. Now, the first thing we have to really deal with, or the first thing we have to put on blast, the purpose of putting things on blast is so they can be dealt with. Because if you don't put them on blast, then we act like it doesn't exist. We act like there's not a problem, and we just continue to go along with the go along with the norm. So the first thing we have to put on blast is our overall collective belief system. And like I said, I'm talking about myself as well too, because I believe at one point that the way life goes is that you're young, you go to school, you graduate at 18, then you go to maybe you get a job, you work for a couple of years, you get married. Around the age of 35, you go to the doctor, and then you come back with these pills, and then you start taking the pills, and then at 40, you start having side effects, you start being affected by the medications, and then things just start kind of going downhill. And so that's a very dark reality to have as a child, thinking that you are just going to become sick at the age of 30 or 35 or 40, and that things are just going to start going downhill. But when that's what you see and that's what you're told will eventually happen, how do you combat that as a child? Because you don't, until you see something different, how do you combat that? So you don't really have anything tangible to use to combat that. And so that's a problem. So the first thing we have to deal with is our belief system. And a belief system is a set of beliefs that are held about what is right, what is wrong, and what is true and what is false. Right now, our community as a whole, our belief system, we have things in our belief system that are extremely toxic. It's extremely toxic. Not only is it toxic, but we have things in our belief system that's not organic. Like it didn't come for us. It didn't come from us, and it runs in my family. Is one of those things that did not come from us. So we now have to figure out, where did this saying come from? Where did this saying come from? When we say it runs in our family, mama got it, daddy got it. Where did this whole thing come from? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know, but I've tried tracing it back, and I have come to a point where I can see where a tactic like this was being used, and this takes us all the way back to 1932. Now, I'm positive tactics like this were being used all throughout history here in America, because just like anything in history, nothing's new. History repeats itself. As long as people are not hip to the game, history will repeat itself. So when we're talking about it runs in our family, I'm able to trace that back to a term called bad blood. How many of y'all familiar with bad blood? How many of y'all familiar with the term bad blood? Anybody? Anybody? Bad blood, bad blood. Anybody familiar with it? Okay, so I'll go ahead and explain bad blood. So back in 1932, in a place called Tuskegee, Alabama, essentially the healthcare system in that area, well, the healthcare system wanted to see, they were very curious about what the natural progression of syphilis would look like, one, but also if they can find the actual treatment or the cure for syphilis. Now, in order for them to see what the natural progression of syphilis was, they would have to actually test this on someone, but also they would have to actually test the medications on somebody. And surely they're not going to do it to their own people. Like, why would they do that, right? So what they chose to do is grab a group of black men, sharecroppers, back in 1932. We're talking about over 400 men, and some of these men already had syphilis. The other population of the men did not have syphilis. And so what they did, they wanted to see what the natural progression of this was. Now they had a problem. So even though the public health system was already set on carrying out this experiment, they needed a way to actually convince people to experiment on them, because you can't just go up like, yo, listen, we want to see how syphilis works in the human body, and we don't want to test our people, so we want to see if your people be cool with it. Like, you can't do that because they're not going to go for it, right? So they're like, how can we convince these people to let us experiment on them while not knowing it's an experiment and while being okay with it? And so what they did is they understood the people at that time. They understood our people at that time, and they understood that we were using a term back then that was very vague. We were using a term back then that nobody really understood, but it was used very often. And that term was bad blood. Bad blood was like this umbrella, vague term for really anything. You know, if you got a cough, bad blood. You got a cold, bad blood. You know, if you're sick, you know, urination with peeing, like anything that was going wrong was pretty much blamed on bad blood. And so bad blood was this very vague thing. So many issues would fit inside the realm of bad blood. It wasn't really defined, and it was something that was said over and over and over about many people in the community. And so what the public health system at that time saw was that these people are using a term in their community that they have no idea what it means, nor is there much truth to it, but they believe in it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use that to actually infiltrate and carry out our experiment. And so this was an experiment that was heavily promoted. Now, like I said, the people at that time, they didn't know it was an experiment. The experiment came in the guise of free healthcare. So it came disguised as free healthcare. So they were thinking that they were getting free healthcare. They were thinking that they were getting free blood work. They were getting free meals. And so everything was free, 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 free. And that's why I told you, when you say reparations and they say free healthcare, that's not what you want. It's not what, trust me, it's not what you want. You notice that when we say reparations, they say free healthcare. That's not what you want. Don't fall for the okie doke again. And so so they heavily promoted this whole free healthcare. They promoted the we will get rid of the problem, which is bad blood, by using our solution, which is the free healthcare, plus using these injections. We have these medications that we need to inject in your spine. And so what you need to understand is that this is the same public health services back then that exists right now. And so they started carrying out this experiment. Now, what you need to know is that this experiment is something that lasted for 40 years, from 1932 all the way to 1972. Now, if you want any more information on this topic with dealing with the Tuskegee experiment, check out the video that I did already on Fly Nubian Queen. It's called Leaving Tuskegee. I did a full hour called Leaving Tuskegee, really breaking down how this whole thing happened and the outbreaks and everything like that goes along with it. So make sure you check that out. But we need to understand that this was the same public health system that exists right now that existed back then. Same system. A lot of those doctors just passed away in the early 2000s. And we need to also understand that this is 40 years of an experiment. But within 7 years of doing that experiment, guess what? They figured out exactly what the treatment for the cure for syphilis was. They figured it out. It was penicillin. So even though they had the actual treatment for it, the cure for it, they still withheld it because they want to see, like, how bad does this get? Like, how bad will syphilis get? And so they sat back and they watched those brothers suffer. They watched them, pretty much slowly die of a painful death. They watched their family members suffer from watching their father suffer. And they stood back and just watched it, and they were fine with it. They were fine with it. And that, like I said, it's public health system back then, same system right now. Not much really changed. So what we need to understand is that while they thought they were getting something beneficial, such as free healthcare, they had their fears were exploited by using a term that they really didn't understand themselves. So these men were getting treatment while not getting better and still suffering and still believing that the actual treatment is going to work, even though evidence was showing different, right? So that is the best that I can do as it pertains to really trying to figure out where the term bad blood, I mean, where the whole idea of it running in our family came from, because bad blood, when you read the documents, the doctors were talking about how it's almost like a boogeyman, because it's like, all of these people believe in it. All these people believe in bad blood. And if you tell them that they have it, they don't even fight you. They go along with it. And once you tell them that they have bad blood, they're willing to take whatever you have as a solution. And so, they had names for us. They were calling us gullible and all those things like that. But that's the best that I can do really as pertains to figuring that out. I'm sure it existed far before that. Now, the next thing we need to understand is that when we're talking about it runs in our family, this really comes down, as far as a real world comparison. This really comes down to family health versus family credit. All right, family health versus family credit. Now, riddle me this: if you are fresh out of high school, right, 18 years old, you haven't touched your credit, and you go to get credit, and they tell you, oh, look, you no longer have to actually build up your credit. What we'll do is just transfer the combination of your mom and your dad's credit to your credit. How many of us would be okay with that happening? How many of us will be okay with that happening? Now, some people, you might have parents with some good credit, so you might be just fine with that. But many people would not be okay with that happening. They just won't. Why? Because if your parents have bad credit, you might have actually learned from their mistakes on what not to do. You may have actually learned about the importance of, paying bills and saving money and investments, and learning from your parents' missteps. That way you can now turn this to something else. But imagine if they say, no, 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 yeah, I know you think you can do better, but we've seen this thousands of times. We know how it plays out. You're going to do exactly what your mom and dad did. Therefore, instead of us, playing the game, we're just going to give you the combination of your mom and dad's credit. How many people will be okay with that? Not many people will be okay with it. So we understand that when it comes to the reason why it's a problem with credit score is because there's so many variables, right? Like there's so many things that can go wrong. And then we understand that credit is something that you really are in charge, you really are in control of for the most part. All the small choices you make about your money and what you want to do with it adds up. Well, when we look at health, the same thing applies as well too. What we need to understand is that example that I used about the family credit, it's similar to the family health history. So when they ask you, does your mom and dad have high blood pressure? And you say yes, and they're like, all right. Do they have diabetes? You say yes, and all right. What about your brothers and sisters? You're like, yeah, all right. So essentially, what they're doing, it comes down to an equation. It comes down to a likability. It comes down to pretty much your father smoked and drank and had a horrible diet. Your mother also smoked, had a very bad diet. And they taught you, the combination of those two taught you how to eat as well too. So we feel that there's a very high chance that if you grow up to be just like them, or if you're exercising the knowledge that you got from them as far as how to eat, you're going to get the same thing that they have. If they have high blood pressure and diabetes, and you're eating just like them because they taught you how to eat, then we don't really need you to go out there and live life, because we'll just decide your life for you. Since they have it, they taught you, you're going to get it too. Now, is that true? Is that how life works? Is that how life works? No, life doesn't work like that at all. Because just like with the family credit, we understand that we can make different decisions. We understand we can actually look back and see what our parents did and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to use this. I'm not going to get this credit card. I'm not going to buy this car. I'm not going to get this house. I'm going to save. I'm going to invest. Same thing with health. So if you have parents who have high blood pressure, diabetes, you understand that you can actually take steps that they didn't take or they were not aware of and not get the same results. So if your parents didn't walk, they didn't exercise, they only ate processed foods, Chinese food, XYZ, then you don't make the same mistakes. And guess what? You won't have the same conditions. So how many people believe that if your parents have a certain condition, high blood pressure and diabetes, both your parents have it, all your brothers and sisters, let's say you have 5 brothers and sisters, and they all have diabetes, type 2, and they all have high blood pressure, and they're all eating the same exact way. Do you really believe that if you go out and eat whole food diet, you're active, you only drink water, and you're getting sunlight, and you're actually doing the quote unquote healthy things, do you believe that diabetes is just going to still fall in your lap? Do you believe that high blood pressure is still going to just fall in your lap? Is that what we're saying? Because if it truly runs in your family, then the answer should be yes. If it truly runs in your family, then the answer should be yes. It doesn't matter what you do, it's going to run in your family, right? But it doesn't work like that. We actually make our decisions and choices day by day that will grant us a result for our health. And so if we are eating unhealthier more than we're eating healthy, if we're sitting still more than we're moving, then this is actually going to get us the results of the things we don't want. So when we look at it from that way, that perspective, we understand that this is largely something that we can actually prevent. This is largely something that we actually control ourselves. So it's not something that runs in our family. What's running in our family is the actual health habits. The habits is what's running in our family. The lifestyle is what's running in our family. And so once we become aware that, oh, it turns out combo B from the Chinese restaurant, it's not really that healthy. It turns out that stir fry vegetables is probably like the worst vegetables ever. It turns out this 50-cent can of soda is just liquid diabetes. So once you start becoming aware of the truth and you make that decision to move away from it, how are you going to get preventable conditions? It's called preventable conditions. Even though it's called preventable conditions, we believe that it's just innate. We believe that it's just running in our veins. Does everybody follow me so far? Everybody follow me so far? Yo, flynubianqueen.com, flynubianqueen.com. Please go ahead, take a quick second right now and hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our new platform called flynubiankingtv.com, flynubiankingtv.com, and check out our other platform for melanated women such as yourself called flynubianqueen.com, flynubianqueen.com. Make sure you text the word Queens to 31996. That way you can stay alert about anytime we go live. Also, if you're working on starting a business, which I highly recommend, starting a business or investing, which I highly recommend, you can't go wrong with being one side or on either side. Go check out flynubianbusiness.com or flynubianmoney.com. All right. So everybody in the chat right now, please go ahead, hit the water, hit the water, hit the water. What did I say? Hit the water. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. I'm thirsty. Yeah. All right. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. So like I said, you know, there's a little bit of truth in the whole family history. There's a little bit of truth in there, and that truth is just based on culture. It's based on environment. Like I said, if you're eating the same way that your parents ate and they have diabetes, then the chances of you becoming diabetic is high. If you're going to eat just like them, then it's high. But Malcolm X had a quote. I don't know if it's, I'm not saying it verbatim, but he says a little bit of truth to attract them and then the rest to entrap them. And so he was talking about the media. Yo, Malcolm X has some really profound things to say about the media, and it's still very true today. So yeah, so like there's a little bit of truth in it, but after that, the rest is just entrapment. And even still, they still can't tell you if it is truly genetic, if it is hereditary, what gene are we looking at? What gene are we looking at? So it's not genetic. It doesn't run in your family. And you all know this because you had a family member who came to you and said, yo, I gained some weight. I have high blood pressure. What do you recommend? What do you recommend? Most people are going to say eat healthier, work out, And when you tell them to eat healthy and work out, that already assumes that you believe that they're not eating healthy and they're not working out. So it's very hard. It's very hard to find somebody who's actually eating a whole food diet, exercising, getting sunlight, drinking water, and also being sick. It's very, very, very hard. As far as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, obesity, all those things. All right. Let's talk about the other reason why this is such a toxic belief to have. Let's talk about the other reason why this is such a toxic belief to have. It runs in my family. If you truly believe that it runs in your family, then guess what that does to you? It makes you less effective when it comes to fighting against the inevitable. It makes you less effective as it pertains to fighting against the quote unquote disease. Because if you truly believe that this is something that is just yours, you believe that you're inherently defective, then there's no real point in working out. There's no real point in drinking green smoothies. There's no real point in eating healthier, because at the end of the day, this is something like a boogeyman, and it's just going to get you, right? So also, if you truly believe that it runs in your family, it's easy to put you to sleep. It's easy to put you to sleep because you won't even realize that you're being attacked. You won't realize that you're at war. You won't even realize the multiple fast food restaurants that's being stacked up in your community. You won't realize the plaza that has the Chinese food restaurant right next to the Dallas Clinic. You won't realize the Dallas Clinic that's sitting right next to the chicken spot. Like, once again, think about the audacity. Think about the mindset it takes to place a Dallas Clinic right next to a Chinese restaurant and right next to a chicken spot. Think about the audacity and think about the lack of respect. So when you believe that it just runs in your family, you don't even see these things going on. Like, you don't see the liquor store right next to the pawn shop, right next to the gun shop, right next to the Dallas Clinic. You're going to just believe that it's normal. You won't see the subtle attack that's going on. So this is just another reason why it's very toxic, a toxic belief, because you're not going to fight effectively against it because you believe that it's yours. Another reason is that this is all being given to you in a package as well. So we know that in our households, in our families, growing up and everything like that, yeah, definitely, we've heard it over and over and over. It runs in my family, runs in my family. So you have that part in your family. You have that in your household. You have that saying, in our culture in general, we have that saying. But also, once again, you're going to have it gift wrapped and handed to you when you go to the actual doctor's office as well, too. And that gift wrapped form of it runs in your family is like a package of learned helplessness. Because it's one thing when your family is saying, it runs in your family, runs in your family, but they may not know what they're talking about. But if the guy in the white coat and the stethoscope with all the degrees come in here and be like, yeah, so it's not your fault. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done. It runs in your family. Now he will validate it. He will validate the condition. And you'll truly believe that this is just your destiny. And so when it comes to improving your health, you'll be in a situation where you're hopeless. And when we're talking about hopelessness, we need to understand that when we're talking about hopelessness, we need to understand that this is where anxiety and depression lives. Anxiety and depression lives because you'll find yourself in a situation that you believe that there's nothing you can do about it. You'll find yourself in a situation that you hate, that you wish you were not in. You hate the medications, you hate the side effects, you hate the social restrictions that's placed on you because of the insulin injection. You hate all of these things, and you so wish that it wasn't the reality, but you are fully in belief that this is the way that it has to be. And this is learned helplessness, and it's also going to equal hopelessness. And that, like I said, that's where anxiety and depression lives. So we have to also peep game on the other side as well, too, as well as the family side. We also have to peep game on the professional side as well, because many of the practitioners are just saying the same thing, Okay, the family history should be more so of a risk factor versus your destiny. It's not your destiny. It's just a risk factor. It's something that you can look into as far as explaining things. All right. Everybody understand that? Everybody got me? Everybody got me. Good, good, good. All right. And I'll get to the comments. I see there's some comments going on. All right, all right. Yo, everybody in the chat, please go ahead and make sure you hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, because I'm still trying to make sure that this content is valuable to us. So, one of the ways we do that is by utilizing the likes, how many likes we're getting, as far as how much interest our audience has in these topics. So if you have an interest in this topic, if you feel that it's valuable, please hit the like button and actually share this content out. And that way we know to go harder. All right. We know to go harder. So let's continue. Now, what is the truth? What is the truth about this whole, it runs in our family? Are Black people just really destined to be sick? The truth is, like I said, it doesn't run in your family. It doesn't run in your family. What runs in your family is the unhealthy habits, the lifestyle, the drinking, the smoking, the processed foods, the Chinese foods, the sodas, the juices. That's what's running in our families. We are not innately defective. We were not sent here to be sick by the age of 35, 40, medication, follow-up, 3 months appointment, medication, increased dosage, follow-up, and to the point where we have some type of event that happens to us and we're not that alarmed, because once again, it always happens to us. Like that's not our purpose. That's not our purpose. And we cannot believe that that's just something that happens to us. We have a huge hand in whether or not this will happen to us, or whether or not it will not. So when we're talking about high blood pressure, cholesterol, obesity, diabetes, especially diabetes, you got to understand that it's damn near impossible to become a diabetic without the use of processed foods. It is almost impossible to become a diabetic without the use of processed foods. You can go and sit in a sugarcane field and chew on sugarcane all day long, but before you become diabetic, your jaw will literally fall out, because nature doesn't work like that. Nature won't allow you to do such a thing. However, processed foods, babies, kids, it will. They have such a discombobulated ratio of sugar and fat. Oh, I told you, sugar, fat, and salt, that is hard to resist. It's hard to fight against these things. It's hard to fight against it. And so we need to understand that you can't, it's hard to create these conditions without the use of the man-made foods. So what we need to do is take all of this advice, all of this toxic aspects of our culture. It runs in our family. We need to take that and throw it into the trash can of history. Throw it into the trash can of history, because it's not ours. It doesn't belong to us. Wherever it came from, send it back. Let it go. All right. Now, let's talk about something called modifiable versus non-modifiable risk factors. So we talked about in my other video how risk factors are things that are associated with. It's not necessarily that it causes it, but there's a high likability when you see these risk factors that the other results may be right around the corner. All right. So we're talking about modifiable risk factors versus non-modifiable risk factors. We need to understand that the modifiable risk factors are called modifiable because this is something that you're actually in control of. These are certain habits that you have in life that may play a large part in you having the high blood pressure, the diabetes, cholesterol, and all these other things. The reason why these are modifiable is because the power actually resides in you to improve these conditions. So in other words, if you improve these conditions, if you improve these risk factors, then the chance of you having these quote unquote diseases decreases dramatically. So let's talk about the risk factors for all of these conditions. All of these conditions, the blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, all these conditions. So when we're talking about the risk factors, y'all hold on real quick. So we're talking about the risk factors. The first risk factor we're talking about is a lack of physical activity. So people who are not physically active are more vulnerable to a wide array of diseases. Physical activity performs a great form of exercise for your heart and your circulatory system as a whole. The next risk factor, which is the biggest risk factor. Let me tell you what the biggest risk factor is. The biggest risk factor, scratch that. It's not even a risk factor, it's a disease. And that is the standard American diet. All right. Because the standard American diet is a dysfunctional form of nutrition. We need to understand that wherever this diet goes, wherever the standard American diet goes, disease is sure to show. And they actually showed this on the map. Wherever the McDonald's and the KFCs and wherever they land at, give them a couple months and people will start to become overweight and obese. I'm sorry, overweight and diabetic. And so, these foods, these processed foods, like I said, they're low in nutrients, if any nutrients. They actually rob your body of your natural nutrients, such as particularly the magnesium. And so standard American foods makes it the perfect storm. It is the perfect storm to create these other conditions that we're working towards combating. Next risk factor is going to be the smoking, the drinking. Smoking and drinking, a lot of times those are self-explanatory as far as how they can create an environment internally for these conditions. Also stress. So stress, we need to understand is that there's three types of stress. Over here at HBAM, I know a lot of people have their ideology or their beliefs as far as what is the root cause of all diseases. Over here at HBAM, we don't believe that inflammation or these other things are the root cause of the disease. We say that stress is the root cause of disease. Now, there's three types of stress. So everybody understands the psychological stress, the emotional stress. So that's one form of stress, but there's two other forms. You have chemical stress and then you have physical stress. When we're looking at physical stress, we're talking about, sitting. So sitting is very stressful in the body. We're talking about having damage done to your body, like a cut or a bruise or a swelling. That's physical damage. If you drop a weight on your toe, that's physical damage. That's physical stress. When we're talking about chemical stress could be the pesticides. It could be pollutants. It could also be, additives, preservatives. It could also be nutritional deficiencies as well too. And so these are all stress. When your body registers stress, it responds in a certain type of way. It's going to be a vasoconstriction, which is the closing of the constricting of the actual blood vessels from dilated to now constrict. We're talking about increasing glucose because your muscles believe that you're in a situation where you're going to fight or flight. So the muscles are going to need more glucose to prepare itself to actually fight or flight. We're talking about having an increase in cholesterol because cholesterol is a precursor for all of our stress hormones. Cholesterol is an anti-inflammatory. Cholesterol also rebuilds or repairs tissue. And so anytime that we're stressed out, our body's going to increase the amount of cholesterol because, once again, we may just be stressed out because we got cut off in the street, but your body is still operating on the level of Africa. And when you're experiencing stress, it's thinking you're experiencing stress from something deadly. And so it's getting you prepared to actually fight or flight. Now, those are the stressors. This is just a broad overview. I actually did a full hour about the three types of stress on Fly Nubian Queens. You can go ahead and check that out. But I go more in depth as far as what the three stressors are and what you need to do about it. But those are the modifiable risk factors. Those are the actual things that you can cut out of your life, improve to make sure that you don't have to deal with this whole high blood pressure, diabetes, or things like that. We can stop saying it runs in our family. We can stop claiming it because it's just not true. All right. So also, as far as how we got into the situation, let's not forget, and I'm sure many of you have forgotten, but when you strip a people from their land and you strip them of their native language, their religion, their culture, their way of life, their ways of seeing food, health, and disease, those people are really only supposed to last in that state for about 100 years. If they're able to survive past that, then it's a miracle. So I was telling a friend the other day, you know, when we read these medical texts, these old school medical texts, like in the 1800s, you see that they are extremely fascinated about us and the body and the working and how we're still surviving and how like going through so much pain and still being around. And you know, when you strip a people of so many things, it's a process called the acculturation process takes place. The acculturation process is when two cultures come head to head, and the oppressive culture is now going to supplant the original culture, and the oppressor's culture will now become the culture of the people. And so those people will now see life throughout the lens of the people who came to oppress them, the people who actually mean them no good. They will now see life through their lenses. They will think like the people who actually oppressed them. And so they will move in a way that just by that is just a large part just naturally in a toxic way. And it's because of the way they were actually taught to live life, be healthy. So a lot of this goes all the way back to that to the stripping of the culture and the land, to the quote unquote soul food, the slave food, you know, the way the foods we were eating at that time. So a lot of it has its inception, all of it has its inception in that area, because by now, if that didn't happen, then we would have already returned back to our natural state of mind. We've already returned back to our natural state of mind. So what are my recommendations going forward? So my recommendation, one, like I said, we have to deal with our belief system. We have to deal with our belief system, and we have to understand that we are not destined to be sick. We are not destined to be sick. When it comes to these preventable conditions, we are not destined to be sick. It does not run in your family. Yes, I know your mom and your dad may have it, your brothers may have it, but that doesn't mean you have to necessarily deal with it as well. If you change your belief system, and instead of believing that you are destined to be sick, if you were to change that to believing that health is your birthright, then you're going to start operating as somebody who believes that they should truly have health. Because right now, without us really saying it, when we say it runs in my family, we believe that we're supposed to become sick. And so we kind of move in a subtle way where it doesn't matter, I'm going to get sick anyway. So we have to actually demonize that term in our community. We have to actually make that a dirty term. It runs in my family needs to become like the curse word in the household. Like if the kids start cursing, you be like, hey, 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 hey. It runs in my family needs to be like, hey, hey, you know, not in my family, not in my family. So we need to get to that part. You know, we understand that words have power. Like we always say, words have power. Don't say that. Don't put mod on me. Don't say that. This and this and that. Well, it needs to be the same way with it runs in our family. Words have power. It doesn't run in your family. Let that go. Throw it in the trash can. Next, we have to do it for the culture. We have to do it for the culture, and we have to change the culture. Once again, I know there's so many things that are toxic that we hold on in our community as being, you know, just cool and part of the popular culture. I did a whole video on that last week, I believe, and it was called obesity in the Black community, or something like that. I did it last week, but it was dealing with obesity in the Black community, and we were just talking about the reasons why, you know, this is such an epidemic in our community. And there's a certain section in that video that I talk about the culture and how the culture needs to evolve, and also understanding that much of what we call our culture is not organic. Much of what we call our culture is not organically coming from our culture, and that's a problem. Next, I recommend that we all learn health defense. Look, this body that we're living in, we're in it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. It stands to reason that we understand a decent amount about it, just, you know, just a basic level about it. Because if you understand your body on just a basic level, it makes it harder for someone to hustle you. It makes it harder for someone to mislead you. So when people start talking crazy, like your pancreas burned out, and you understand the basic anatomy and physiology of a human, you understand the basic physiology of a pancreas, you would say to yourself, something about that doesn't sound right. When somebody says that, you know, your blood pressure is going to blow your kidneys out, yeah, on a cartoon level, that sounds about right. But on a physiological level, you start asking different questions. You start saying, well, hold on, first of all, what's causing the pressure to be so high in the first place? Because the pressure is actually responding to something that's making it pressurize. What is that? Before you give me the medication, I know you want to give me the hydrochlorothiazide, the lisinopril, the metoprolol. I know you want to give me those things. But before you give me that, let's try to find out why it's high in the first place. Like, what is it responding to? Do I have high viscosity? Is my blood too thick? Do I have constricted arteries? Do I have a blockage? Because if any of those things are true, then decreasing my blood pressure is going to make my body have to work harder to try to perfuse my 37 trillion cells. I don't really know if that's a good idea. I don't really know that going behind the back of my body, who is intentionally increasing my blood pressure. I don't know if going behind and saying that, yeah, I know you're trying to increase it because of this restriction, because of this blockage, but I'm gonna go ahead and decrease it because we want it to look nice and neat on this little scale. We want it 120 over 80. You're 138 over 90. We can't have that. Let's get you down. So yeah, you have to learn health defense. You have to learn your body on a basic level. I've done multiple videos about health defense. Matter of fact, every single video I've done on Fly Newbie and Queen would be considered health defense. I've done videos on PCOS. PCOS is diabetes of the ovary. I've done videos on high blood pressure. I've done videos on cholesterol, type 2 diabetes. I've done multiple videos on type 2 diabetes. I've done videos on obesity, and it's all right here on Fly Newbie and Queen. .com. So make sure you take some time out and you actually go through those videos. All right, go through those videos. All right, so we're gonna get ready to close it out, and I'm gonna close it out with my recommendations. And these are the recommendations that, if you are here night by night, then you know that these are the same recommendations. And once again, these recommendations are for the most part free. There's only one on here that's actually gonna cost money. All right, so let's go ahead and go through it. The first one, stop the nutritional colonizer. Stop the nutritional colonization. I'm talking about processed foods. I told you, when you're bringing in processed foods, they're going to do the same thing that actual colonizers do to a territory, which is they suddenly come in, they act like they're coming in peace, but they're there in a hostile manner. They're there to rob you of your natural resources. They're there to push you to the outskirts of your own land and then take everything you have. Well, when we look at processed foods, when we understand how stressful it is for the body to break down these foods, when we understand just how high the glucose is going to increase and how the insulin now has to compensate for it, which is going to cause inflammation, it's going to cause the increase in the retention. When we understand those things, and we understand that a lot of nutrients needs to be pulled from our body, such as magnesium and calcium needs to be pulled from our body to actually break these things down, then we understand that we're in a relationship where it's lopsided. We're actually eating foods that are not bringing in any nutrients, while not bringing in nutrients, they're also taking away nutrients and causing havoc at the same time. And we're doing that not once, not twice, not 3 times, but some of us are doing it 6 times a day because you were told to do that by your practitioner, by your dietitian. So the first step is going to be to severely decrease or completely wipe out the nutritional colonizer. Next, eating whole food. Like I said, don't make it too difficult. Don't make it too difficult. Don't make it difficult. We've been conditioned to make everything difficult. We've been conditioned to overthink everything. We've been conditioned to try to count calories and pee on a ketone stick and weigh food, and we've been conditioned to do all of these things, but understand that that's not life, that's not living, that's not natural. That's how you create a market. All right, and I'm not hating on them. You know, get your money, do your thing, but not over here. Like, go over there and do your thing, but not over here. So understand that most of these things that is being pushed, as far as the calorie counting, the keto stick, and all those things, like, it's really just creating a market. It's selling products, and you know, it is what it is. Next, movement. We're designed to move. We're not designed to remain stagnant all day long. Matter of fact, in the other video I did about obesity, I talked about how the chances of you having a stroke doubles, I believe, for every 4 hours you sit. If you're sitting 4 hours a day chronically, like you have an office job, then your chances of having a stroke actually increases. and it's because of the stagnation of the blood, especially when it comes to the lower extremity. And so this is why I'm always telling all my patients, my customers, my members, yo, set your clock every 45 minutes, get up and move, go upstairs, uh, go outside, walk around the block, but get up and move. All right. The next one is water. Water, water, water. I told you water is extremely important. We need it, especially if you're diabetic or if you have, or you're pre-diabetic, or if you have insulin resistance. You're automatically going to be dehydrated on a mild level because of the osmolarity in the bloodstream is pulling on the water from out of your cells, leaving you dehydrated. So make sure you're drinking water, 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 and cut out the juices, the beer, and the soda. Once again, that's diabetic fuel. It's liquid diabetes. All right. So cut those things down because they do you no good. Next, sunlight. Sunlight is going to help you create hormone D. So I'm working on the hormone part because I already told y'all vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. And when it comes to African Americans, people of African descent, the black, the brown people, you know, people who have the actual ability to tan, to browning, to brown, to become browner. Anyways, uh, vitamin D is extremely, extremely important to you. Matter of fact, 90 to 95% of the black community is vitamin D deficient. And by being vitamin D deficient, it leaves you vulnerable and open to everything, everything, particularly prostate cancer in men and breast cancer in women, but also heart disease as well, issues with your thyroid. And once again, if you just think about it as a hormone, we automatically understands what happens with hormones when we're low in other areas like thyroid and estrogen and testosterone. We understand the problems that's happening there. Well, now we need to look at vitamin D, I'm sorry, hormone D in the same way. Next, fasting. You know, fasting is everything. Fasting is my gospel. Fasting is the one thing that I know without a shadow of a doubt would radically improve our community overnight. So we got to get back into the habit of fasting. As far as you know, what I recommend, I do recommend at least a daily fast of 16 hours. I recommend that we make, you know, eating once or twice a day our norm. You know, we just make it our norm. I know society told you that you need to eat 6 meals a day. I know they told you to eat every 2 to 3 hours. I know they told you need to rev your metabolism. Look, what does that even mean? When they tell you to rev your metabolism, what does that even mean? Like, can anybody actually explain that to you? If you actually push these people to a corner and make them explain what they mean by revving up your metabolism, and then you ask them, why do I need to rev up my metabolism? What happens if I don't rev up my metabolism? Am I just going to die? So, like, if you have them, because I've done it, you know, like, what do you mean? I've asked them, like, what do you mean? And what you're going to get is a whole lot of what I call medical splaining. Like, you just get a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of babble, and it means nothing. So let all that go. It doesn't work for your benefit. Oh, matter of fact, this book talks about the push of breakfast, because when we talk about breakfast, understand the word breakfast. Breakfast essentially break fast. Breakfast is just the time that you're breaking your fast. When you're not eating, when you're abstaining from food, you are fasting. The moment you eat, you have now broken your fast, and that's your breakfast. So that means that you can eat at 8 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, and that's still going to be your breakfast. Does not have a time to it. Breakfast is not something that has to happen in the morning. Breakfast, it's not, you know, they say it's the most important part of the meal. Yeah, it is if we're talking about it in the actual real term, meaning breaking your fast. But if you're talking about breakfast as far as getting you ready for the day, no. If you're eating breakfast first thing in the morning, first of all, you know, people, ask yourself, first thing in the morning, are you really hungry? Are you really hungry first thing in the morning? Like, do you feel like, oh my goodness, I need to eat? Most people, if they were to check in with themselves, they would realize that I'm not really hungry. I'm not really hungry. And most people naturally, if they were to just to kind of go on until they actually start to feel hungry, 11 o'clock, 11:30, 12 o'clock is where they're going to fall in. And that's where most of my patients fall in, as far as, you know, me getting them started with fasting. So breakfast was actually pushed by the cereal manufacturers, you know, Kellogg's, Yo, these people are gangsters, man. I know you see Tony the Tiger and you love Tony the Tiger and you see the Leprechaun and all these cats, but yo, that's mask on. When they take that mask off and they kick it in your doors, you know, so we gotta just think about that. You know, we gotta just think about that. Yeah, so that's it. That's it. That's it. So I appreciate y'all. Let's see what kind of questions we have over here in the chat. What is going on? What's going on? What's going on? All right, let's see. Let's see. OMAD. Yeah, 1 meal a day. 1 meal a day. I mean, that's a beautiful start. And that's really, you know, really all it comes down to. Whole foods, yes. Yep, yep, yep. All right, somebody's, I don't know what they're talking about. What are y'all talking about over here? All right, all right. Any questions? Any questions? Yeah, we definitely have to unbrainwash, as my brother or sister said, dark-skinned butterfly, I guess the sister. Unbrainwash and educate. Yeah, yeah. We definitely have to redefine all of these things because we're living out a narrative right now that is not, it's not beneficial for us. Not beneficial for us. So hit your black farmers up, local. Yeah, definitely. Yo, support. If you have black farmers in your area, please support them. Please support them. Please. I don't care if it's just to get a apple. Like, please support them. You know, because they're actually they play a huge role as far as you know, being heroes in our community, and they're very rare nowadays. Very rare. So please support them. Yeah. So all right, y'all. So I appreciate y'all. I'll be back on here Thursday. I'll be back on here Thursday at 11 p.m. I'm not sure what I'm going to speak about on Thursday, but I have a lot of emails. People asking me to do PCOS again. Is anybody? Well, you know, you can say it or not, but I have a lot of emails asking me to do PCOS again. So I may do PCOS, may not. You know, it just depends. But always feel free to email me, support@hbam.com. Always feel free to follow me on social media, Instagram and Facebook at HealthBam, BAMN. Also, the link to my website is right here in the description. Just click on what's going on, Lester? Just click on the link in the description if you want to check out any of the products that we have to offer or any of the programs we have to offer. But other than that, I will be back on Thursday. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. And remember, our community, our responsibility. We have what it takes. We just have to put in the work. We have to get this word spread around. All right. So make sure y'all share this video, like the video, and I will be back on here on Thursday. All right. Holla at y'all later. Peace.